Ik lees ook dat je graag speelt met je lalaloopsie.
Wat is dat?
Piet, jij weet toch wel wat een lalaloopsie is?
Oh, een lalaloopsie.
Oh, een lalaloopsie.
Ja, natuurlijk weet ik dat.
Zwarte Piet zou ook graag met zijn lalaloopsie spelen.
It's the one and only Digo Double G. Snoop Dogg. You know I'm mobbing with the D.R.E.
Ah yes, Sinterklaas, what a true gangster. Anyways, welcome to another Fenix video. How long has it been? Ah, well then. Oops. I'll try harder to make more videos, sorry. Anyways, happy holidays! Whether you celebrate Hanukkah, Christmas or Sinterklaas, who is the main topic of today. This video is going to be a bit different than usual, but seeing how usual hasn't been around for about 11 months, I doubt many people will care. Today I will tell you guys all about Sinterklaas, how it's celebrated, the history of the real person, the changes in the tradition in all the years, and do the most daring controversial thing that is always discouraged on YouTube, share a personal opinion, specifically on Black Pete, who's become an integral part of the Sinterklaas tradition. I doubt I'll need to explain why any opinion either one way or the other would be controversial about this. Just try refraining from commenting until you've seen the whole video. Anyways, here on the screen is a small list in which this video is split up, for convenience's sake. Modern Sinterklaas. To describe Sinterklaas's outfit, I just have to say he dresses as an absolute pimp. I mean, look at him. He has a big red cape, wears a bishop's dress and wears a cool pope hat. Besides that, he also has a ruby ring, a golden pimp staff and rides on a white horse. The white horse is called Americo, by the way. He can walk on roofs and is named after the guy America is also named after. Yeah, I bet you didn't know America was actually named after a person. Amerigo Vespucci, by the way, an Italian fella. But that isn't where the multiculturalism ends. See, our cool friend the Sint, I call him the Sint, we're friends, he's a Turkish guy who lives in Spain and comes from Spain all the way to the Netherlands to give all the good children gifts and candy. What does he ride on? A magic sled? No, darn you, he rides a steamboat, because why not? And yeah, the horse is also on the boat. But we can't forget Zwarte Piet in this equation either. Zwarte Piet or Black Pete are the many companions of Sinterklaas who all serve a different purpose in making sure the holiday goes off without a hitch. For example, you'll have the Head Pete, Navigation Pete, Gift Wrapping Pete, etc. While Black Pete used to be portrayed as an unintelligent helper, the roles have swapped over time and now Black Pete is a valuable assistant to the absent-minded saint. While every Black Pete looks sort of different in their outfits, they have black skin due to chimney sooth, red lipstick and often earrings as well. However, in recent years we also have the Chimney Pete variant, who more resembles a person covered in sooth and does not have red lipstick and earrings. These are also called the Sooth Petes. Besides that, they also wear 16th century colorful noble attire with a lace collar and a feathered cap. The celebration itself goes through a couple different stages. It starts with the entrance of Sinterklaas, where he and every Black Pete arrive in the Netherlands by steamboat. They then continue along a parade with Sinterklaas often on horseback through the city. This then marks the sign of the kids being able to put out their shoes at night. See, the kids prepare the shoes in hopes of getting treats or small presents in their shoe. Traditionally, these are placed at the fireplace where Black Pete will enter the house. But since fireplaces aren't so common anymore, they can be placed anywhere. It's also appreciated if the kids do something in return, so they will often leave a drawing for Sinterklaas and Black Pete or food for the horse. This is always hay, sugar cubes or a carrot. By the way, the horse also travels along, as I said before, since Sinterklaas's horse has the magical ability to walk on rooftops. Because this is clearly trespassing, the police has tried for decades to arrest Sinterklaas in the act. However, they never managed to catch him thus far. During this period where Sinterklaas is in the country, kids will sing Sinterklaasliedjes or Sinterklaas songs. They're basically like if Christmas songs were all aimed directly at Santa Claus and his elves, except here it's for Sinterklaas and Black Pete. Besides this, delicious candy comes back into the supermarkets and oh my god, it's so much chocolate! Like look at this old video of mine for examples, but it's just the best! The most common one are pepernoten or pepper nuts if you translate them directly. It all builds up together towards the final day, the 5th of December or Sinterklaas's birthday, Pakjesavond. Pakjesavond basically means package night, because Sinterklaas and Black Pete will come at night to bring presents to all the good children. An older part of the tradition, that does not really happen anymore, is that Sinterklaas and Black Pete will beat up bad kids with a stick, put them in a sack and take them to Spain. But these have always been empty promises, of course. Many have tried to take this express route to Spain, but alas, me and all my classmates did not manage to take our free holiday to Ibiza. After this, they are all just gone back to Spain. They don't even have a big celebration for them going back to the boat or anything. They just managed to deliver all the presents, get to the boat and return to Spain all in the same night somehow, and nobody could ever answer me as a kid how that worked. Why didn't no child stake out the ship or anything? How come it takes an entire celebration to enter the country, but they just up and leave in no time? I call shenanigans. Saint-Nicolaas of Myra. Anyways, you know the celebration now, but what is it based on? Who is Sinterklaas? Well, Sinterklaas is the shortened name of the Sint-Nicolaas of Myra. It was part of the Roman Empire, but nowadays is a part of Turkey. He is known as the Holy Protector of Children, with 2 stories being the most famous. The first story involves 3 children being killed by an innkeeper and being left in a barrel. After which, Saint Nicholas necromances them back to life to serve in his undead army. They're just alive now. Also, he forgives the innkeeper and his wife after they say sorry. Hey, that was very mean. Sorry, Sinterklaas, we won't kill children again. Oh well, if you're sorry, then not a problem. The other story involves 3 girls being unable to pay for their dowry. For those that don't know, this is an outdated tradition which luckily doesn't exist in many Western countries anymore, where parents of a daughter have to transfer property, gifts or money at the marriage. Because of the poverty of the family, they would be unable to pay for the dowry, making marriage highly unlikely. In that case, they would be most likely sold as slaves. Thus, to avoid the girls from having to enter prostitution to pay for the dowry, on 3 different nights a satchel of gold appeared in the house of the family, a complete dowry for each of the girls. These satchels of gold were thrown in through the window by Saint Nicholas, each falling into the girls' shoes, which explains where the tradition of putting out your shoes comes from. He then died on the 6th of December, which is pretty ironic since we now celebrate December 5th as if it were his birthday.
Iedereen denkt dat hij jarig is, maar hij is gestorven op 5 december. Hij is gruwelijk vermoord en nu komt hij terug om wraak te nemen.
Changes in the celebration over the years. So the Sinterklaas tradition started in the Middle Ages, where kids starting from the 6th of December up until the 28th of December would receive gifts, while there was also a wild feast similar to Carnival, in that people wore costumes and got absolutely hammered. At the end of the Middle Ages, St. Nicholas markets started becoming a tradition, where people would buy gifts for the St. Nicholas celebrations. Furthermore, there was a tradition where a boy would gift a girl a gingerbread man, and if she accepted this, it would be a good sign for a relationship. This goes back to the story of Saint Nicholas and the 3 girls, after which he was seen as a patron saint of marriage. And up until the 20th century, this tradition was still practiced, where people would send each other love letters similar to Valentine's Day. However, this tradition died out as the focus became more of a children's holiday. In between these periods, however, there was a time where Protestants tried to get rid of the holiday altogether, since they considered it to be Catholic superstition. This was around the 16th and the 17th century. While they had no problem with the gift-bringing part of the celebration, They wanted to abolish the saint adoration. Sinterklaas then changed from a protector of children to a boogeyman. He was portrayed as an evil black man with chains on his feet. This character would give candy to good children and would intimidate bad children into behaving. However, at the beginning of the 19th century, the classical portrayal of Sinterklaas returned as his popularity never quite left. Sint-Nicolaas and zijn knecht, or Saint-Nicholas and his servant. This story from 1850 by the Dutch school teacher Jan Schenkman is what formed the Sinterklaas celebration that we know today. This is the first story that had a clear picture of Sinterklaas with a dark-skinned helper, a horse riding on roofs, bringing presents or a bundle of sticks through the chimney, the big book of Sinterklaas and the steamboat. Before this, there exists no source of Sinterklaas ever having a dark-skinned help. Furthermore, it also created the current image of Sinterklaas as an old man with white hair and beard and a red pope hat and cloak. The book started with the now very famous opening, Zie ginds komt de stoomboot uit Spanje weer aan. This now being one of the most famous Sinterklaas songs in existence. The famous steamboat was used in the beginning as a way for Sinterklaas to enter the country, and he would then leave again by air balloon. In later iterations of the story, he leaves by train. Although, as any Dutch person can tell you, don't trust the trains around wintertime. The damn NS is useless. Changes in the celebration over the years. Continuation! At the start of the 20th century, there was still a lot of difference between the celebration in urban and rural areas. In the cities, the celebration was already focused on the package evening and visit from Sinterklaas. Meanwhile, rural areas like villages still participated in Klaasjagen. During this, young people would go around with blackened faces, imitating the boogeyman or angry bishops with their helpers. They would then go to houses asking for bad children and demanding money or sweets. Parents would often get these people to scare and threaten the children with punishments. This tradition was slowly replaced with the ones that were used in the cities, however. During the Second World War, when Germany occupied the Netherlands, many of the traditional Sinterklaas songs were rewritten to reflect the current events, often celebrating the Royal Air Force. As in 1941, they had dropped boxes of candy over the occupied Netherlands. This led to changes in songs such as, and apologies for my horrible singing voice, RAF kapoentje, gooi wat in mijn schoentje, bij de moffen gooien, maar in Holland strooien. World War II also caused a huge change for the celebration after the war was over. See, while Sinterklaas only had one or occasionally two Black Petes accompanying him since 1850, the liberation of the Netherlands brought a new element. Right after the liberation, the Canadian soldiers organized a Sinterklaas party dressing up as many Black Petes, with each Pete having a separate function. This is why nowadays we have multiple Petes as well. Santa Claus. While not necessarily important to Sinterklaas, I thought it might be interesting and fun to tell you the link between Sinterklaas and Santa Claus. It is pretty obvious by now that Santa Claus was derived from Sinterklaas, along with certain parts of the mythos. Now having a sock instead of a shoe, elves instead of Black Pete, sled instead of steamboat, reindeer instead of horse, etc. This all dates back to the American War of Independence, where the inhabitants of New Amsterdam, now known as New York City, started reinventing the Sinterklaas tradition that they grew up with. And during the Reformation in Europe, many Protestants changed him from Sinterklaas to the Christ Child or Christkindl. This of course leading to the name Kris Kringle.
To some chap named P. N. Gwyn.
P. N. Gwyn?
Penguin.
Later on, the date of the giving gifts changed from the 5th or 6th of December to Christmas Eve. Wild Hunt. According to some, the origin of Sinterklaas and his helpers could also be linked to the Wild Hunt of Odin. This is because he rode his white horse Sleipnir through the air as the leader of the Wild Hunt, being accompanied by two black ravens, Hugin and Munin, if I pronounced that correctly. The helpers would listen at the chimney to tell Wodan about the good and bad behavior of the mortals. One other similarity is that Sinterklaas gives chocolate letters to children, while Odin gave rune letters to man. This is where the similarities stop, and this theory has little support among present-day scholars. It is still popular in non-scholarly sources though, and that is why I decided to mention it nonetheless. Zwarte Piet, wit. While I handled some elements of Black Pete, I wasn't able to tell the full context of the character yet, so I might repeat some stuff that I mentioned earlier. Before 1850, when Zwarte Piet was introduced as the helper of Sinterklaas, there was already a character in the shape of a black man or a devil in folklore. His name was often Klaas, but other names that were often used, if translated, were Bully, Black Man, or Piet with the legs. This is the boogeyman character that was used after Protestant reform. He would punish children by taking them in a sack or hitting them with a bundle of sticks. During this period, Zwarte Piet or Black Pete was still used as a nickname for the devil, or, as he was named in Flanders, Pietje Pek. Furthermore, the name Zwarte Piet was also used by robbers and other criminals such as Pieter Antonies, that's a weird name, known as the Zwarte Piet van Leiden, who was hanged in 1665. Another is Jean-Pierre Mourguet, whose wanted posters in 1787 named him the Zwarte Piet. In the story of Sint-Nicolaas and zijn knecht, he was portrayed as a dark-skinned male with a possible sailor outfit. In the third edition of the book, this helper was then portrayed in puffy pants, a beret, and the overall appearance of a page. This character quickly became popular as people were eager to change the tradition from black-faced Klaazen into that of the helper. Around 1850 he was known as Pieter mijn knecht, or Peter my servant, but he had many other names as well. After 1890 he got the role as Punisher of Naughty Children, where he would jingle chains or hit children with the bundle of sticks mentioned earlier in the video. It wasn't until 1895 that the name Zwarte Piet was nationally popular. However, many regional names still stuck for a while after this. These names, for example, were Jan de Knecht, Trappadoelie, Nicodemus, Assipan, Sabas, Hansmoef, Pikkie, Robert, Krikrak, Micheltje, Hansje van Vezen or Hansje van Kezen, Jacques Jour or Jacques Shore. Up until the second half of the 20th century, Black Pete was an unintelligent helper to Sinterklaas. However, once immigration from former colonies caused many Europeans to familiarize themselves with Africans, Black Pete developed into a respectable assistant to the often absent-minded Sinterklaas. The hair got changed from frizzy to curly, and in some places they also got rid of the earrings. Another development was that Black Pete started becoming less of a scare maker for children. While his past of kidnapping children and beating them with a bundle of sticks is still traceable in lyrics of Sinterklaas songs, such as Wie zoet is krijgt lekkers, wie stout is de roe, this element of the character was removed under pressure of child psychiatrists and pedagogues. In recent years, people have also been protesting against the appearance of Black Pete with black skin, red lips and gold earrings, as this is seen as racist by many outside of the Netherlands and a growing amount of people inside of it, with an increasing number of people each year willing to switch the look to the Soot Piets. These Piets would resemble a person who is darkened by going through the chimney, as Black Pete was also changed from a dark-skinned person to a white person covered in soot in the last few decennia. Broadcasting companies such as Nickelodeon have decided to use a racially mixed group of actors in their holiday broadcasts of Black Pete, while RTL Nederland has chosen to stick to the Soot Piets exclusively. Oh, by the way, there's also a popular story that many people reference about Black Pete's origin that is just straight up not true, so I thought I just might mention it here. Some say that the reason Sinterklaas had Black Pete is because of a story where Sint-Nicolaas saved a huge group of slaves and they then decided to become his helpers out of gratitude. This is false. The original story that was made up in the 1200s and retold in 1863 is about a single slave boy without mention of skin color being saved by Sint-Nicolaas and returned to his parents. This story then got altered by a couple people as an excuse for having Black Pete about 100 plus years after he was already introduced. Black Pete is now the longest part of this video, especially since this character has changed more often and in way more different ways than any other aspect of the Sinterklaas celebration. Which is interesting because this is a character that wasn't even part of the celebration until after 1850. There's one last thing I should probably note at the end of this part, however, and that is that I need to leave out many phrases and descriptions that were used for Black Pete over the years, as they often included the N-word. That is not something I want to use on this channel, so if you're wondering why I did not use many direct quotes from newspaper articles, now you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Opinion, oh boy. Ah yes, now it is time for the most controversial part of this video. Any opinion I might have about this will surely be seen as controversial by one person or another. That's why during the video itself I focused on telling the absolute objective fact about the history of the celebration and the characters. The only exception were of course a couple of jokes, but these are very obviously jokes, while the rest is true historical fact. Like Sinterklaas being a pimp. I don't want this video to seem subjective in any directions because it honestly just is historical fact. There were certain blogs or Facebook posts that would tell alternative versions, but since they never seemed to have actual sources, I did not use these. From this all, I want you the viewer to be able to have your own opinion, because now you have the full story. So now it is actual time to tell you my opinion. In the start of the protests, when they were aimed at getting rid of Black Pete altogether, I was very much against the notion, since I didn't want the holiday ruined for my nieces and nephews. With all their different ethnicities, they still enjoyed the festivities. However, as a middle ground option was thought of in the form of Roet Piet, I quickly came to like this idea. Not just because I started reading up on the history of Sinterklaas, but because Zwarte Piet could be anyone. As a child, I always enjoyed watching the short series called The Witte Piet, or The White Pete. In this, a small boy sneaks onto a steamboat and comes along to Spain, becoming a White Pete. At the end of the story, everyone sees him, and though controversial, the White Pete is accepted. I love this story because it showed me that anyone could become a Black Pete, no matter their ethnicity. Heck, I remember as a child, almost everyone wanted to become a Black Pete around Sinterklaas time. With Zwarte Piet, anyone can, and I adore it. So, that is my opinion. I like Zwarte Piet, and I would actually prefer him very much to the old Black Pete costumes. So yeah, with the incoming thought of a flame war in the comment section, I would like to tell you thanks for watching. If you learned any new information in this video, you can leave a like, and with my promise to start uploading more frequently again, you could also subscribe. I'm not going to force you to, but I definitely appreciate it. With that being said, the Fenix has to fly away again. I don't think anyone can word my wishes better than Jordan Peele and Colton Dawn with...
Have a dope 5 December and a Happy New Year!